Lindsey Graham of South Carolina. Senator, thank you so much for joining me this morning. We have a lot to get to, but let's start with that evacuation. There are still estimated to be thousands of American citizens still on the ground. The government isn't currently considering another evacuation. So what is your reaction, and how is President Biden handling all of this?
Well, I appreciate the effort to get our folks out of the embassy that serve over there. The military did a very successful operation. Yeah, I'm worried. You got thousands of people in the middle of a civil war, and have we been late about sort of telling them to leave? Could you see this coming? Those questions will be asked and answered later on. But right now, if I were an American in Sudan, I would shelter in place, and hopefully we can find a way to end the fighting, get humanitarian aid, and get our people out.
Let's turn to the fight over abortion rights, Senator. You've been a leader on this issue. Just before the midterm elections, you proposed legislation to ban abortion nationwide after 15 weeks, with some exceptions. On Friday, the Supreme Court ruled that mifepristone will continue to be accessible to Americans. Did the court get that right?
Yeah, I think what the court's going to do is send it back for a little more evaluation. But the issue was the drug lawfully approved? Did the FDA follow its own procedures? Chemical abortion safe? So those issues will be decided by the court. The idea of mailing the drug, sending the drug through the mail, runs into a statute called the Comstock Act. The Supreme Court will sort all this out here in the coming months, and I'll live with whatever decision they make.
Well, you mentioned the Comstock Act, which I should tell our viewers bans every article, instrument, and substance, drug, or medicine, things that are used for abortion, from being in the mail. It's a very old statute on the books. Do you believe that the Supreme Court should use that as a way to ban this abortion pill?
Well, I think it's a law on the books, and it was placed there for a reason. But sending the abortion drug through the mail is a big change in how it is provided. In 2000, when it was first approved, you had to have 4 visits to the doctor. In 2021, the Biden administration said you don't have to even consult a physician anymore and send it through the mail. Is that safe? Has the FDA gone too far? Have they used the procedures in place to make such a dramatic change? That's what the court will decide.
Former President Donald Trump's campaign said this week that the Supreme Court got it right when they ruled abortion was a state issue. But here's what former Vice President Mike Pence said yesterday in Iowa.
I don't agree with the former president who says this is a states-only issue. I mean, we've been given a new beginning for life in this country. I think we have an opportunity to advance the sanctity of life, move it ever closer to the center of American law.
Senator, I've heard you say both on this issue, that it is a state issue, but now you do support a federal ban. So who's right here?
Right. Well, I've been supporting a limit on late-term abortions since 2015. I had a bill to limit abortions at 20 weeks with exceptions for rape, incest, life of the mother. 70% of Americans support limiting abortion when the unborn child can feel pain. 50 of 53 European nations limit abortion at 15 weeks or less.
But my question is it a federal issue or state?
Yeah, it's a human rights issue. Does it really matter where you're conceived? At 15 weeks, you have a developed heart and lungs, and to dismember a child at 15 weeks is a painful experience. It's barbaric. It's out of line with the rest of the civilized world. Only North Korea and China allow abortion on demand up to the moment of birth, except the Democratic Party. What the Democratic Party proposes on abortion is barbaric. Abortion up to the moment of birth, taxpayer funded, I think is barbaric. I welcome this debate. I think the Republican Party will be in good standing to oppose late-term abortion like most of the civilized world.
Just for the record, Roe went up to viability, but I just want to button this up.
No, quit covering for these guys. No, your media, you keep covering for these guys. They introduced legislation that allowed abortion on demand with taxpayer-funded you paying for it, the taxpayer, up to the moment of birth. That was their position in Washington. That's the law they want to pass, and nobody in your business will talk about it. It's barbaric.
Senator, I'm not covering for anybody, and you
yeah.
know that. And when I have Democrats on, and I've had
Okay,
Democrats
well, just
on,
report the facts.
I have asked all of them about their position on where they believe this issue should be. My question for you, sir,
Well, I can
is
tell you
about
how they voted.
my question for you, sir, is about President Trump, who you've endorsed to be president again. Is he right in saying that this issue should be a state's issue?
He said yesterday, I think at his speech in Iowa, that he opposes late-term abortion. Here's what I believe, that anybody running for president who has a snowball's chance in hell in the 2024 primary is going to be with me, the American people, and all of Europe saying late-term abortions should be off the table. 70% of the people oppose late-term abortions. I am confident over time, that's where our nominee will be. I am confident that no Democrat will answer the question of when do you draw a line. They never get challenged. And I welcome this debate.
Okay.
I welcome this debate. Should we be like China and North Korea, or should we be like Europe when it comes to late-term abortion?
Okay, they do get challenged, but I want to move on to something that is very important to you, which is the Middle East. You recently returned from the Middle East. You met with the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, and Saudi Arabian Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Israel has been normalizing ties with Saudi Arabia. They want to make that a top priority. You have been very critical of the Saudi Crown Prince in the past. Listen to what you said a few years ago.
Yeah. I introduced MBS 2 years ago in town, hailing him as the new vision and the new voice of the Mideast, embracing his agenda of reforming Saudi Arabia, only to be played like a fiddle.
So what makes you think a deal between these two countries is possible now that the Crown Prince, how are you sure that he's not playing you like a fiddle again?
Well, you know, time will tell, won't it? But what I see on the ground, I spent 4 days, Dana, and thanks for bringing the topic up. They've changed pretty dramatically their economy. They're trying to modernize their economy. Women can now drive. Women can go out to dinner without a male escort. I met 20, 30 entrepreneur Saudi women that were very excited about the changes. Also went to Israel, and here's why I went. The Biden administration is trying to build on the Abraham Accords started by President Trump, and the biggest prize, for lack of a better word, would be to get Saudi Arabia to recognize Israel and vice versa. And the Biden administration is trying to do that, and I want to help them. I think the Biden administration is right to want to normalize relationship with Saudi Arabia based on the changes I see, and eventually have Saudi Arabia and Israel recognize each other, which would be the end of the Arab-Israeli conflict. It'd be the biggest change in the Mideast in modern times, and I want to help President Biden and the parties do that if we can.
Back to the U.S. and specifically the Judiciary Committee. You're the ranking member on that committee. Senator Dianne Feinstein, she's been absent for health reasons. You and other Republicans blocked the Democrats' attempt to temporarily fill her committee seat. If she resigns, isn't just absent, but actually resigns from the Senate, will you allow this committee seat to be filled?
Yeah, if she resigned, I would make sure that whatever we did in the past when members resign would be followed. As to Senator Feinstein, she is a wonderful person. She's been a very effective senator. I hope she comes back. We had Mark Kirk out for 4 months. No Republican asked that his seat be temporarily filled. This is about 4 or 5 judges. They can't get out of the committee. I voted for 7 or 9 judges yesterday, a couple of days ago. I'm very capable of supporting Democratic nominees, but there are 4 or 5 are just out of the mainstream, and they want to replace Dianne Feinstein's seat for the judges. But I hope she comes back. But if she does resign, I would be in the camp of following the president of the Senate, replacing the person consistent with what we've done in the past. But I hope she comes back. I hope Dianne gets better. She's a wonderful person.
So if the precedent shows that you have, or that the committee has actually replaced a member who has resigned from the Senate, you would follow that again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I want to turn back to 2024. You have endorsed former President Trump, as I mentioned. There are 2 candidates in the race from your home state of South Carolina, former UN ambassador and South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, and your colleague in the Senate, Tim Scott. They've announced their own runs, or in Tim Scott's case, an exploratory committee. Why shouldn't South Carolinians vote for one of their own? Well, both of them are just incredible people. Tim is the ranking member on banking.
the world's nicest man. Nikki was a tremendous voice at the UN. The reason I'm with President Trump is I thought he was a good president on the things that mattered the most. We had a secure border. We destroyed the caliphate. We had energy independence. I think he's the right person to fix the problems that we face, to undo all the damage by Biden. It's not anything about Nikki or Tim that I find fault in. It's about the ability of President Trump to get things done that should be done. I'd like to see him have another term. I'm not supporting him because I find fault in others. I'm supporting him because I think he was a very effective president across the board, economically and on national security.
Okay, Senator Lindsey Graham, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Thank you.